Ladies, let me tell you something I've learned in my own journey. Everything in life starts with belief. It doesn't start with money. It doesn't start with luck. It doesn't even start with opportunity. It starts with the belief you carry inside your own mind. The truth is, you can't attract what you don't believe you deserve. That's why so many people never see wealth in their lifetime, because deep down, they don't believe it's meant for them. They think wealth belongs to somebody else, to folks born into the right family, or to people who already got the right connections. But I'm here to tell you, belief is the key that unlocks every single door. Until you change what you believe about yourself, nothing else will change. I remember when I was broke, living out of my car. At that point in my life, I had every reason to give up. I could have easily told myself, "This is it, Steve. This is the end. You're never gonna make it." But something inside me wouldn't let me settle. Even though I didn't have a dime, I still believed I was created for something greater. That belief is what carried me forward. See, belief is the fuel you need when you don't have anything else. You may not have the resources, you may not have the connections, you may not even have the plan. But if you got belief, you got the seed of everything you're hoping for. The law of belief works like a magnet. What you dwell on in your mind, what you keep feeding your thoughts to, is exactly what you attract into your life. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'll never get ahead, I'll always be broke, money just ain't for me," then that's exactly the reality you create. You'll find yourself stuck in that cycle over and over again because your belief is programming your actions, and your actions are shaping your results. But the minute you start saying, "I am worthy of abundance, I am capable of creating wealth, I am designed to succeed," everything around you begins to shift, doors start to open, opportunities begin to show up. People you never thought would notice you start paying attention. Why? Because your belief changes your energy, and your energy changes your outcome. Now, let me make this real plain. Belief doesn't mean ignoring reality. If you're broke right now, I'm not telling you to pretend you're a millionaire. But what I am telling you is that you must refuse to let your current situation dictate your future expectation. Belief is not about lying to yourself, it's about training your mind to see beyond what you can see today. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, right? Belief is choosing to expect more even when the evidence in front of you says less. That's why belief is so powerful, because it puts you in alignment with what God already has for you. And here's something I need you to hear. Wealth is not just about money. Wealth is about abundance in every area of your life. It's about peace, joy, health, relationships, and yes, financial blessings too. If you only believe for survival, you'll only ever survive. But if you believe for abundance, you'll start to live in abundance. Think about it. Two people can grow up in the same neighborhood, go to the same school, face the same struggles. But one believes they're destined to rise while the other believes they'll never make it out. The one who believes differently takes different actions, and those actions lead to different results. The difference wasn't the environment, it wasn't the opportunity, it was the belief. You see, belief shapes behavior. If you believe you're capable, you act with confidence. If you believe you're unworthy, you hold yourself back. The reason most people never see wealth isn't because they don't have talent or ability. It's because they talk themselves out of it before they even start. They sabotage themselves with doubt. But when you truly believe, you start moving differently. You invest in yourself. You take risks. You push past fear. You keep going even when it doesn't look like it's working. That's what belief does. It gives you the strength to keep pressing when everything in you wants to quit. I'll tell you another thing. Belief is contagious. When you start believing in yourself, other people start believing in you too. Nobody wants to follow somebody who doesn't believe in themselves. Nobody invests in doubt, but people will invest in confidence. The energy you project is the energy you attract. If you carry yourself like you're defeated, people will treat you like you're defeated. But if you walk with the belief that you are destined for greatness, people will respond to that energy. They'll see it in your eyes, hear it in your voice, and feel it in your presence. That's why belief is the foundation of wealth. Because wealth comes through people, and people are drawn to belief. Let me ask you something. What story are you telling yourself every day? Because your belief is nothing more than the story you repeat to yourself over and over again. If you keep telling yourself you're broke, you're unlucky, you're stuck, that story becomes your reality, but you have the power to rewrite the story. You can start telling yourself a new narrative. I am capable, I am resourceful, I am blessed, I am wealthy. And when you repeat that story long enough, your mind accepts it as truth, and your actions begin to line up with that new truth. That's how you change your life, from the inside out. Now, I'm not saying belief alone will make you rich. You still got to put in the work. You still got to hustle, grind, and stay consistent. But belief is what gives that work meaning. Belief is what keeps you going when the work gets hard. Belief is what makes you see opportunities instead of obstacles. Without belief, your hustle won't last. With belief, your hustle has purpose. I've seen too many people with talent, with intelligence, with resources, who never got anywhere because they didn't believe they could. And I've seen people with nothing, who started from the bottom, who had no reason to believe they could make it. And yet they did, simply because they refused to let doubt win. That's how powerful belief is. It doesn't guarantee you the result, but it guarantees you the chance. Without it, you don't even get in the game. With it, you put yourself in position for miracles. So the secret law that attracts wealth begins right here, in your mind. It starts with what you choose to believe every single day. The wealthiest thing you can do right now is change the way you think about yourself. Stop disqualifying yourself. Stop telling yourself it's too late, you're too old, you don't have enough. Start believing that you are worthy, that you are enough, and that wealth is attracted to you because you were created to live abundantly. That belief is the foundation, and once you get the foundation right, everything else you build will stand strong. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces you will ever experience in your life. People underestimate it because it sounds simple. Folks think gratitude is just saying thank you when somebody hands you something, or appreciating the good times when everything's going right. But real gratitude is deeper than that. Gratitude is an attitude, a daily choice, a perspective you carry with you no matter what season of life you're in. And let me tell you, gratitude has the ability to transform your life and attract wealth in ways you can't even imagine. See, here's what I know. You cannot expect more if you're not grateful for what you already got. Too many people live their lives in constant complaint. They wake up complaining, they go to bed complaining, and they wonder why nothing ever changes. Complaining blocks blessings. Gratitude, on the other hand, unlocks them. When you thank God for what you have, you make room for Him to give you more. Gratitude is like a key that opens the door to abundance. It doesn't matter how small that thing might seem. If you honor it, if you appreciate it, it grows. I remember times in my own life when I didn't have much. I was broke, sleeping in my car, trying to figure out how to make it to the next day. I could have sat there and focused on everything I didn't have, and trust me, the list was long. But even then, I found myself saying, Lord, thank you for another day. Thank you that I'm still alive. Thank you that I still got a dream in my heart. And every time I shifted my focus from what was missing to what I still had, I felt something change inside me. My circumstances didn't instantly change, but my spirit did. That's what gratitude does. It shifts your spirit. And once your spirit shifts, your actions shift. And once your actions shift, your life starts changing. Most people think wealth is just about dollars, but real wealth starts with gratitude. You can have millions in the bank and still be broke in your spirit if you don't appreciate what you have. You'll always feel empty, always chasing more, never satisfied. Gratitude fills that void. Gratitude makes you realize that even if you don't have everything you want, you already have more than you thought. When you start counting your blessings, you stop feeling like you're lacking. And when you stop feeling lack, you stop attracting lack. Instead, you attract more blessings because your energy changes. Now, let's be real. Gratitude ain't always easy. When life is hard, when you're struggling, when you feel like you're losing, gratitude feels unnatural. It feels crazy to say thank you when you don't even know how you're going to pay the bills. But that's when gratitude is most powerful, because it takes faith to be thankful in the middle of the storm. When you can thank God before the breakthrough, that's when you activate a different level of blessing. Anybody can be thankful after they get the raise, after they get the car, after the doors open. But the people who show gratitude before those things come, those are the people who experience miracles. Gratitude also changes the way you see yourself. When you're thankful for the little you have, you stop comparing yourself to everybody else. You stop scrolling through social media, feeling jealous of what they got. Instead, you look at your own life and say, I may not be where I want to be, but I thank God I'm not where I used to be. That perspective builds peace, and peace is a form of wealth. There are people with more money than you could imagine who would give it all up just to have peace of mind. Gratitude gives you that peace without the price tag. Here's another thing I've learned. Gratitude and giving go hand in hand. When you're grateful, you're naturally more generous. You stop clinging so tight to what you have because you realize it's already a blessing. And the moment you start giving, you start receiving. Gratitude makes you a vessel instead of a container. A container just holds everything inside, but a vessel lets things flow through. And when blessings can flow through you, more blessings will flow to you. That's why grateful people always seem to be blessed. It's not because they have more, it's because they do more with what they have and life keeps rewarding them. Think about it like this. Have you ever given something to someone who didn't appreciate it? Maybe you gave them your time, your effort, your resources, and they acted like it wasn't enough. Didn't that make you think twice about giving to them again? Now imagine how God feels when we're constantly ungrateful. Why would He pour more into your life if you don't appreciate what He's already given? On the other hand, when you give to someone who lights up with gratitude, who values it, who treats it like it matters, doesn't that make you want to bless them even more? That's the same way blessings flow in our lives. Gratitude attracts more. I tell people all the time, one of the best ways to practice gratitude is to start and end your day with it. When you wake up in the morning, before you reach for your phone, before you check the news, before you think about your problems, just take a minute and say thank you. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my family. Thank you for another chance to try again. And when you go to bed at night, instead of worrying about what didn't go right, focus on what did. That simple habit will change your life. It'll train your mind to look for blessings instead of problems, and the more you look for blessings, the more blessings you'll find. Another powerful thing about gratitude is that it creates resilience. Life will knock you down, that's a guarantee, but gratitude gives you the strength to get back up. When you can find something to be thankful for even in the worst moments, you can never be truly defeated. Gratitude gives you hope. It reminds you that no matter how bad it is, there's still something good, and that good is worth fighting for. That mindset is priceless, because resilience is what separates those who quit from those who win. And let me tell you, gratitude isn't just about words, it's about action. You can say thank you all day, but true gratitude is reflected in how you live. If you're grateful for your health, you take care of your body. If you're grateful for your job, you show up on time and give your best. If you're grateful for your relationships, you treat people with love and respect. Gratitude is a lifestyle, not just a phrase. And when you live in gratitude, people notice. Opportunities notice. Wealth notices. Because the world rewards people who appreciate what they have. So many people are missing out on wealth right now because they're waiting to be grateful until they have more. They say, I'll be thankful when I finally get that promotion. Or I'll be thankful when I move into a bigger house. Or I'll be thankful when I make 6 figures. But gratitude doesn't work like that. You don't wait for wealth to be grateful. You become grateful first, and then wealth follows. Gratitude is the seed, wealth is the harvest. You don't get the harvest without planting the seed. The truth is, you already have something to be grateful for right now. If you're breathing, you're blessed. If you can see, hear, walk, or think, you're blessed. If you got a roof over your head, food in your stomach, somebody who cares about you, you're blessed. And the more you acknowledge those blessings, the more blessings you invite. Gratitude multiplies. What you appreciate appreciates, and what you ignore disappears. Let me tell you something I know for a fact. Prayer without hustle is dead. You can have all the dreams in the world. You can have all the vision. You can have all the belief. But if you don't put in the work, none of it matters. Wealth is not a product of wishful thinking. Wealth is the result of daily grind, consistent effort, and refusing to quit no matter how tough it gets. You don't attract wealth by just sitting around and hoping. You attract it by showing up every day, doing the work most people are unwilling to do, and sticking with it long enough to see the results. That's the law of hustle and consistency. Now, a lot of folks think hustle means doing something once, giving it a try, and if it doesn't work out in a week, they're ready to give up. That's not hustle. Hustle means doing it day in and day out, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's not convenient, even when nobody's clapping for you. Hustle is discipline. Consistency is discipline, and discipline is what separates the dreamers from the doers. When I first started out in comedy, I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have a rich uncle waiting to hand me an opportunity. All I had was this dream in my heart, and I knew the only way it was going to happen was if I hustled. I drove across states to get to gigs that paid me $50. Sometimes I didn't even get paid. Sometimes the money I made wasn't enough to cover the gas I spent to get there. But I kept showing up, I kept grinding, I kept hustling. And that's the reason I'm standing where I am today. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance, it was consistency. See, most people want overnight success, but let me break the news. Overnight success takes years. It takes showing up when nobody knows your name. It takes performing when there's only 10 people in the audience. It takes writing when nobody's reading, practicing when nobody's watching, and working when everybody else is sleeping. That's hustle, and consistency means you don't stop. You don't do it for a week, you don't do it for a month. You do it until you see the results, until the door opens, until the opportunity comes. And if it takes years, you keep going for years. Because the truth is, wealth don't come to people who start. Wealth comes to people who finish. Now let me make something clear. Hustle doesn't mean running yourself into the ground. It doesn't mean chasing everything with no plan. Hustle is focused, intentional effort. It's about making the most of your time, being productive instead of just busy. A lot of people confuse movement with progress. Just because you're moving don't mean you're moving forward. True hustle is about moving with purpose. It's about setting goals, taking action and sticking to it long enough to see the fruit of your labor. Consistency is the secret ingredient that most people overlook. Anybody can be motivated for a day. Anybody can be excited about a new opportunity for a week. But can you keep that same energy when the excitement wears off? Can you stay committed when the results are slow? Can you keep showing up even when it feels like nobody cares? That's what consistency is, and let me tell you, consistency always wins. Talent can get you noticed, but consistency keeps you in the game. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Think about people who go to the gym. If you go one day and work out for 5 hours, you're not going to see much change. But if you go for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and you stay consistent for a year, your body will transform. That's the law of consistency. Small efforts repeated over time create massive results. The same goes for wealth. You don't build wealth by hitting one big jackpot. You build wealth by making smart moves over and over again, by working, saving, investing, and repeating. That's how you grow. I've watched people quit right before their breakthrough. They put in the work for a while, they get tired, they stop, and they never realize how close they were. If they had just stayed consistent a little longer, the door would have opened. But consistency is hard because it requires patience. Everybody wants fast results, but the truth is, lasting wealth is slow. Cooked, not microwaved. You can't cheat the process. You've got to trust it. You've got to keep hustling when it feels like it's not working, because eventually it does. Another thing hustle does, it builds character. Every time you push yourself to keep going, you're building discipline. Every time you keep showing up, you're building resilience. And that character is more valuable than the wealth itself, because it's what allows you to keep the wealth once you get it. That's why so many people who hit sudden success lose it just as quickly. They didn't build the discipline, they didn't build the consistency, so they couldn't sustain it. But if you've hustled for years, if you've been consistent through ups and downs, when you finally reach wealth, you'll know how to handle it. You'll know how to keep it and grow it, because the hustle shaped you into the kind of person who can. And don't get it twisted. Hustle isn't glamorous. Social media will have you thinking hustle means private jets, fancy cars, and taking pictures of laptops at coffee shops. Real hustle is messy. Real hustle means late nights, early mornings, sacrifices, saying no to parties so you can work, saying no to spending so you can save. Hustle means putting in work behind the scenes that nobody claps for. People only see the glory, but they don't see the grind. If you want wealth, you've got to fall in love with the grind. But here's the good news. Consistency compounds. What feels small today will feel big tomorrow if you keep at it. That business you're building brick by brick, it might not look like much now, but if you stay consistent, one day people will call it an empire. That skill you're practicing every day, it might not pay off today, but one day it'll set you apart from everyone else. The hustle you put in today might not be noticed, but consistency guarantees that one day it will. The law of hustle and consistency says your effort will not return void. It might not show up when you want, but it will show up when it's supposed to. One of the worst lies people believe is that success is about luck. No, success is about preparation meeting opportunity, and preparation is nothing more than consistent hustle. You can't predict when your big break will come, but you can make sure that when it does, you're ready for it. Hustle prepares you. Consistency ensures that when the opportunity knocks, you've already put in the work to walk through that door. That's why people who hustle seem lucky, because they were prepared when opportunity showed up. So don't despise the small beginnings. Don't get frustrated because the results are slow. Keep hustling. Keep showing up. Stay consistent, because the truth is, Wealth doesn't just come to the smartest or the most talented. Wealth comes to the most consistent. You don't have to be the best, but you do have to be relentless. You do have to keep going when most people stop. That's the law of hustle and consistency, and that's how you attract wealth. The greatest secret about wealth is this: you don't get by holding on tight, you get by letting go. Most people think giving means losing, but the truth is, giving is planting. Every time you give, you're sowing a seed. And the law of life is simple. Whatever you sow, you will reap. If you sow generosity, you reap abundance. If you sow kindness, you reap favor. If you sow into other people's lives, it comes back into your own multiplied. Giving is not subtraction, it's multiplication. The moment you understand that, you start to see why the wealthiest people in the world are always the biggest givers. Now, let me be real clear. Giving is not just about money. Yes, money is part of it, but you can give in so many ways. Your time, your energy, your encouragement, your knowledge, your love. Sometimes the best gift you can give somebody is just showing up for them, listening to them, supporting them. And every single time you give, it creates a ripple effect. You may never see how far it goes, but I promise you, it always comes back. That's why people who live with a generous spirit always seem to attract wealth. They've tapped into a universal law. When you open your hand, God can fill it. I've seen people who hold so tight to what they have that they never make room for more. They're scared to give because they think they'll run out. But let me tell you something. Closed fists can't receive blessings. If you clutch everything you got, you might keep it for a little while, but you'll never grow. It's only when you release that you make space for increase. You've got to trust that when you give, you're not losing, you're investing, and the return on that investment is always bigger than what you put in. I remember when I didn't have much. Back when I was struggling, I still made it a point to give, even if it wasn't money. Sometimes I gave my time, sometimes I gave encouragement, sometimes I gave opportunities to people who needed a chance. And every single time, God found a way to return it to me. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the same form, but it always came back. That's the beauty of giving. You don't control the how, but you can be sure the return is coming. And let me say this, giving tests your faith. It's easy to give when you got plenty. But when you're down to your last, when you're uncertain, when you don't feel like you have much to offer, that's when giving takes real faith, and faith is what moves mountains. If you can give in the little, you qualify yourself for the much. Because if God can trust you to be generous with a little, He can trust you with more. That's why giving is a wealth principle. It proves you can handle abundance. A lot of people don't realize this, but giving also frees you from greed. Money is powerful, but it can also be dangerous. If you love it too much, it owns you. Giving keeps money in its proper place. It reminds you that wealth is a tool, not a master. It's meant to flow, not to sit stagnant. When you give, you prove that money doesn't control you. You control it. And that's when you're truly wealthy, because wealth without generosity is poverty in disguise. Here's something else. Giving opens doors that hustle alone can't. You can grind all day long, but sometimes the blessing comes not from what you do, but from what you give. When you sow into someone else's dream, sometimes that's the very thing that positions you for your own breakthrough. I've seen people give opportunities, give mentorship, give support, and those seeds later came back as unexpected promotions, partnerships, and open doors they could never have gotten on their own. That's why I always tell people, don't underestimate the power of generosity. It's not charity, it's strategy. Another thing about giving is that it changes your heart. It makes you more grateful, more humble, more compassionate. You start to realize how connected we all are, how much we need each other. And when your heart changes, your energy changes. People can feel that. People are drawn to givers because generosity is attractive. Nobody likes a stingy spirit. But when you're generous, people want to work with you, help you, bless you. Generosity attracts relationships, and relationships are the true currency of wealth. And don't think you have to wait until you're rich to start giving. Giving is not about the amount, it's about the spirit. If you wait until you're rich to give, you'll never give, because giving starts with the heart, not the bank account. If you can't give when you have $10, you won't give when you have 10 million. But if you train yourself to give now, no matter how small, you'll already be aligned with the law of abundance, and wealth will find its way to you. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got a garden. If you take your seeds and hide them in a drawer because you're scared to lose them, what happens? Nothing. Those seeds rot and die. But if you put them in the ground, if you release them, what happens? They multiply. They grow into something much bigger than what you started with. That's exactly how giving works. The seed has to leave your hand to create the harvest, and the harvest is always greater than the seed. Giving also creates legacy. The wealthiest people are not remembered for what they kept, but for what they gave. Nobody celebrates selfishness, but people never forget generosity. When you give, you create impact, and impact outlives you. That's real wealth, knowing that your life made a difference, knowing that your blessings didn't just stop with you but flowed into others. That's why giving feels so good, because deep down we know that's what we were created for. I've watched this play out over and over again. The people who give, who share their blessings, who lift others up, they never lack. They may face challenges, they may go through tough times, but somehow, someway, they always bounce back. Why? Because they've built their life on a principle that guarantees return. You cannot out. Give God, you cannot out. Give life. The more you give, the more you receive. That's not just a nice saying. That's a law. So if you want wealth, don't just think about what you can get. Think about what you can give. Don't ask, what's in it for me? Ask, how can I add value? How can I bless somebody else? How can I make a difference? Because when you focus on giving, getting takes care of itself. Wealth flows to people who flow wealth to others. That's the cycle, that's the secret, that's the law of giving.